will be live. There we are.
Jane, we're going to ask you that you stay unmuted for this meeting so that we don't have to wait. There's no other participants coming in. So we're going to ask you and Randy to stay unmuted for the duration of the meeting, please. Thank you. So we can see everything. Randy will come in.
We are recording and we are live.
Okay.
Just like that, folks.
So Jane heard me. That means that. Okay.
Just to let you know, your worship, we are recording and live streaming presently.
Okay,
And ready.
good, thank you.
All systems to go.
So seeing it's 7, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our regular council meeting for May 10th, 2022. Some of us are in the chambers in person, and some of us obviously are on Zoom. Our first official hybrid council meeting and this new technology ability that we have. So on that basis, I would take a mover and a seconder to open our meeting. Moved by Councillor Foisey, seconded by Councillor Corbett, that this meeting be opened at 7 p.m. All in favor? Carried. The last meeting was April 26th, and there's minutes in our package from that meeting. I'd take a mover and a seconder to adopt those minutes. By Councillor Vaillancourt, seconded by Councillor Corbett, that the minutes of the regular meeting held April 26th, 2022 be adopted as circulated. Any issues with the minutes at all? All in favor? Carried. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Hearing none. There's no presentations or delegations. Minutes and reports of municipal committees and boards. Planning advisory.
We didn't have a meeting since our last council meeting, but you'll find a couple items I believe from the director of planning, and another one for a resignation further on down in your agenda.
All right, thank you. Fire department.
Well, we haven't had any lately. I'm just waiting to see if we can team up and with the fire chief, we're working out trying to get a scheduled meeting. I noticed today that we do have a full fire ban on. That's the latest that I've heard. So that's it for that.
Okay. Recreation and fitness.
So we did have a meeting on May 2nd, a productive meeting. We have an active summer ahead of us with a number of events, starting with Community Day on June 4th. So lots of great things happening there at the Case with their garage sale and barbecue. The library is having their annual book sale. The fire department will have an open house. July 1st, we have a Canada Day celebration with the theme of Canada A. Lots of great activities in and around the community, including a parade and lots of activities around town hall, and including a duck race, I believe. July 24th, St. Bernadette is having a takeout sea pie and bean dinner. August 15th to the 19th, Bonfield Summer Camp is happening, and details of that will be or are sent out in the spring newsletter that was in everybody's mailbox. And August 20th and 21st, Bonfield Agricultural Society Fall Fair. October 31st, there's a Halloween function. So really nice to be back to some semblance of an active community with all these great activities happening. So planning is well underway through the committee for all of that.
Okay, thank you. Library.
I wasn't at the meeting May 2nd, but from I can extrapolate here, they formed a hiring committee for the position of library assistant to replace the one that went on to another job.
That's it. Okay, thank you. General government has not had a meeting. Police services will need a meeting soon. There was inquiry made about the appointments of the annual election of chair and vice chair and so forth by email, and of course that hasn't happened yet. Emergency management met almost a week ago. We had discussion at that meeting about our state of local emergency and the fact it can soon be terminated. Instruction was given to prepare all of the documentation and reporting preliminary stuff that will be necessary to file once the state of emergency is terminated. And our next meeting, we will obviously we're still provincially in a sixth wave, but so many of the restrictions have been loosened in all sectors that barring some dramatic change, conversation will happen at our next meeting about lifting our local state of emergency with the emergency control group. Public Works. See the Public Works manager there. Is there anything to report from?
Dava Construction will be here next week to do the street sweeping. The company we used to use, Duncor, no longer does that anymore. So Dava is the only last standing member within our district that actually does street sweeping. It seems perhaps late when it's this hot out, but it's quite early that we're getting this done in the third week of May. We're preparing the parks for opening for next weekend. The skateboard equipment is in. We moved it inside after we had the electrical done on the rink in order to put the curtain up. Provincial was out doing some of the culverts on Development Road. They still have a few where you may see some culverts in the ditch that we're unable to do at this time due to conservation permitting for July. Unofficially, we do a tender for calcium with the East Ferris. Unofficially, Pollard has won the tender, although the increase is 28% this year for calcium. With a slight head nod, I would like to proceed in getting our order in and the tender coming to council the next 2 weeks. So basically, I'm just preparing to put an order in. It wouldn't be a confirmation of the acceptance of tender. I'm preparing an RFQ and an RFP for some more projects in the parks, one of them being the walkway between the two parks, as well as the retaining wall with the AODA ramp down to the playground equipment. And I've just started a grant for LED lighting for all of our buildings. So we can look into the future and be able to save some dollars for our taxpayers with energy costs. And that's all I have for you today.
Okay, thank you for mentioning the the work in the parks there, and it also triggered me a bit with the recreation report. I guess primarily recreation at this point, would you, and I'm speaking more to the secretary than the members at the moment, could you add to the agenda at some point conversation about animals in the park? Because I've raised that a number of times, and I'd just like us to have a discussion about animals in the park, whether we're going to revise our current policy or what we're going to do. So I just throw that back out there for, pardon?
I will add that to the agenda.
Okay, thank you. And one that's not in our general list, but there was a CAO mayor's meeting in East Ferris last week that I believe our CAO attended. I'd give you occasion now to report any earth-shattering news that come out of there if you have any.
Thank you, Your Worship. Appreciate the opportunity to speak too. We did have some of the mayors attend virtually, and some mayors and CEOs did attend in person at the Sportsplex, the arena in East Ferris. And it was a lovely opportunity, my first opportunity to see the facility, and I'm very impressed with what they have constructed there. The meeting primarily focused on a couple of matters, one being of most pertinence to our community is Bell gave us some looks at the broadband that is coming. And although they're not committing 100% to any timelines, they expect to have all of the municipalities within the Nipissing district, all homes covered with the new broadband program, and it will be full gigabyte service. Matter of fact, it's going to be 3 gigabyte, not 3 megabytes, which is a good day with the data that we can get now. I'm talking a full 3 gigabyte service, and of course you can buy in at your price tier if you wanted 100 gigabytes up and 100 gigabytes, 100 megabytes. I'm going to get it correct. 100 megabytes down and 10 up would be a starting package, and then up from there to a full 3 gigabytes up and down. So fiber is coming to Bonfield. That's very good news for all of us here in the community, for businesses, for the municipal office. We can step into the 21st century officially with that service. There was some talk as well about the trail riding system and so they're doing more work on that. And it was just a good talk about Castle Home and how that project is going along, and the fact that all the financing has been finalized through Infrastructure Ontario and is set. And so construction has undertaken at the facility, and everything is looking very good. There is a portal that will be available, or as a matter of fact, is available now. I have a link for it, and the members of council and staff who are interested can log into that portal and see how the construction schedule is going and everything like that. So if you have an interest in the finer details of how that project's going along, I can pass along a login for you. That's my update from that meeting.
Very good, thank you. There's no motions from any of the committees, I don't believe. So reports of non-municipal committees and boards, very timely. Phenom, we have 2 members in our, or 2 people that are in our meeting tonight that are actively engaged in the current Phenom conference. So perhaps Councillor Foisey, you'd like to tell us about how it is going. I know it's still ongoing tomorrow.
I find it very interesting, especially the debate, which was pretty well. It's without too much conflict between the leaders of the parties, so it went pretty well. About the School of Medicine in Sudbury, that was very interesting. I can't remember the name of the lady. I don't have my notes there, but she did a pretty good presentation to promote not the School of Medicine, but the university. Sorry, they're going to get a university. So, and I don't know if you want to add to that. Or...
Okay.
No, thank you.
CEO Walker, is there any other details to add?
Well, we'll let Councillor Vancouver ask his question.
Just a question on charging a fee to go to the debate. I heard that on the review today. Do you know who was Phenom charged, or how did that work?
So through your worship, if you don't mind, I answer the question. The delegates for Phenom were admitted for free at no charge. I did also hear that there was a ticket price that had been issued for that. I'm not aware of how that transpired or where that came from, or if that was even misinformation. I apologize. I don't have an answer for that.
No, it's fine. I just heard it was $150 a head for a ticket. And I was, oh, it's kind of, but it wasn't for us.
Yeah.
You guys were already included in the fee. Okay.
I will speak on a couple of things real quickly about the Phenom conference. First of all, for many mayors, councillors, and administrators that are there, it's been our first opportunity to be back in person, and it's people have really commented how nice it is to be back together with our colleagues and our counterparts at other municipalities, and see people face to face and no longer in a little box on the screen from about here to here, but people actually have bodies and have the ability to move around instead of being frozen in a frame like we've been for 2 years. So that was very interesting. The speakers have been dynamic and interesting. One speaker, his first name's Doug. I can't remember his last name, but he is an author and a former municipal, I believe, councillor from a municipality in Alberta, and even ran for premier of Alberta. And he wrote a book that I think would be interesting for all of us to have a look at, and it's 13 Ways to Kill Your Municipality. So, and he covered in bullet point form and rather quickly all 13 different ways. And it's always good fun to sit there and think about, well, where do we fit in all of this? And so it was entertaining. He was a dynamic speaker, and a number of good things that happened. But really the interaction, the collaboration, municipalities speaking together about many different things and different events. That's what's important about Phenom, and that's why it's important that we're there.
Okay, thank you.
And the vendors have been excellent too. The vendors have been excellent that are there in the trade show, and they're giving us lots of great information. Sorry to throw that in at the last second.
No, that's good. Mr. Griffiths, I think, spoke at Roma a year or two ago, and we may well have a copy of that book there, if I'm not mistaken. I think Councillor Lagasse encouraged us at that time to acquire it, so it may well be there. But thank you for the reports. Conservation Authority.
Yes, we did have a meeting the night after our last council meeting, which was on April 27th. But before I do my report, can I just get an introduction of who's in attendance of our meeting?
Yes, excuse me. I just realized myself we have guests in attendance for the first time in a long time in our gallery there. So yes, how many people do we have? And I can't quite make you out from here.
We currently have 2 members of the public who are just attending council meetings as they did in the past. So we have Mr. Jim Ron and we have Ms. Lisa Lau.
And I was thinking of staff, and I can't see who is there for the staff.
Your favorite one. Your favorite one, Jane.
Anne is there. I just didn't know if the director for planning was there, the new director.
No.
She's not
You
there.
didn't recognize Anne because she has glasses now.
Yeah, I'm old.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And
All right, so then, now that I know that all of council's there and some of our staff, I will continue with my report. So yes, we did have a meeting on April 27th, and we had the Matawa water source protection. So we were given an update by our staff regarding our on-site inspections and how they were very high and they were dealing with a couple of issues regarding that, and we reviewed their policy and also what they have plans for this coming year. And then after that, at 6 o'clock, we had our North Bay Matawa Conservation Authority meeting, and we have an update on our events, our 50th anniversary events, which you can find on our website. And also Dean DeCare was there, and he presented us with our financial statements, and he reviewed it, and he gave the staff a really high recommendation for what they were doing with the money and what they did during the years of COVID. So yeah, we had some good reports there, and that's about it for that meeting.
Okay, thank you. Castleholm, CAO Johnston, or CAO Walker, I should say, spoke to the fact that construction is well underway there. When you drive by now on the bypass, you can see that some of the former parking lots are being used as staging areas and construction zones for the work site. So pleased to hear also that the Infrastructure Ontario documentation has fell in line, because there was a last minute scramble there for signatures a week or two ago. And from experience with Infrastructure Ontario, they expect everybody to be sitting at their desk pretty well 24/7 at their command for their catalogs of documents that they send out. Thankfully, City of North Bay took on the burden of marshalling all that documentation through the works. So that was good. Councillor Lagasse, you had a question?
Yes, I just wanted to let everyone know that they will be having a ribbon cutting for the senior housing in Matawa on Friday, and that's brand new, and I will be in attendance at that one. So I thought I'd bring that up at this time.
Okay, thank you. There's no notices of motion that I'm aware of. Moving then to Section 8, Introduction and Consideration of Bylaws. A bylaw to execute a financing agreement with the community nonprofit Seniors Housing Bond Field. It seems we're jumping right into the fire with the bylaw conversation there. So before we perhaps introduce the motion for the bylaw, I'd like some clarity from the CAO related to the debt repayment limit conversation where we left it at the last meeting. Were we able to firm up the numbers on that?
Yes, through your worship. So I have verified through our contact, Brian Searle at Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, that the guarantee of the loan does not reflect on our ARL unless at the junction that the loan is called because of default. So as the treasurer, I have the ability to include it under my discretion or exclude it under my discretion as a treasurer, of which it only makes sense to leave it off of our ARL. So the impact is zero. Should the nonprofit board and the operation of the seniors housing go into default, At that juncture, the municipality has a couple of options that we can do. We can lend support to the group and help them get back in good standing, or we can take over ownership and operation. At that point, yes, we have the liability on our books, but we have the asset against it. Also, we have the revenue from the operations to cover off the operational costs for the municipality to run it. So it becomes a net zero effect. And so that's what I can give you in the information that I've been able to gather.
Okay. Were you able to quantify, because that was part of the concern at the last meeting, with the Castle Home Development Road and our own current debts that we've had over the past 10 years, where we are positionally in that debt repayment limit scope right now?
Yes, I have an initial calculation. I'm waiting for a response back from our auditor to just ensure that I've done the calculation correctly. But it's looking like for Castle Home, that number will take up about 18%, 18 to 20% of our ARL. And so that will be included. So that's the numbers that I'm just waiting to get firmed up.
Okay, so 18%. Remind me again what, because I mentioned it at the last meeting. We have a policy that we've adopted. It's a voluntary policy, and it's to guide council, best practices of a benchmark figure of once we approach that in our debt repayment limit, we need to review things. What is that percentage of our debt repayment?
So through you, Your Worship, I have endeavored to go through our previous bylaws and find that document. I was not successful. I'll continue to look for it. I believe you had stated that it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 40%. Our current ARL with our previous debts, and we do have one coming off this year, but where we're standing currently, we're at about 32%. And so with the addition of Castle Home, that would put us at 50. We have, so that's where we stand right now.
Okay. And in this case, in the absolute worst case scenario, with this guarantee, what percentage does it represent of the debt repayment limit?
So that would be an additional 15%. Should it meet the criteria that the default is placed and the municipality takes over the responsibility of the operations and ownership of the facility.
Okay. Also, there was correspondence that came in related to the discussion we had with Dean DeCare, our auditor, about the 40-year duration of the guarantee staying in effect. And there's been a concession made in the financing agreement, the new financing agreement that's in this agenda, related to the fact that if and when in 15 years' time, the reserve has been built up at the entity, and basically everything is as described and in perfect order, they may or may not, well, they may, at their discretion, consider at that point in time lifting the municipal guarantee. Is that how I understand it to be?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions related to the agreement at all?
Castle Home, how much we pay Castle Home right now? We pay them so much a month for now this other amount. So this 18% or whatever. I'm just wondering how much of a difference it's going to make since we already pay them.
So those numbers have not been finalized yet. We don't know what what those payments will be. I wish I could give you an accurate number.
Yeah.
I don't have them yet, unfortunately. And I don't want to speculate.
That's roughly what, 3 million or something on so many years.
It's in our
Years.
disbursements, I think, tonight, the monthly payment to Castle, if I look. Yeah, that is a levy, though. That's
Yeah.
an
That's the
operational levy. It's not the construction amount. The conversation along the way, though, has been that the operational levy, once the city of North Bay takes over the entity, which is the path they're all on now, City of North Bay is going to take over operation of Castle Home and own it and have it on their books, which was strategic to them. If they're going to have a debt, they also want to have an asset to show for it.
So we won't pay that anymore.
So the operational levy, based upon what the Castle Home management has said, with the new building and the efficiencies and the far less repair and maintenance bill that would be happening, they said, don't think the city's doing you a big favor by taking Castle Home and saying you're not going to have an operational levy anymore. It was probably going to go away anyway, because we're in a brand new building and it's more efficient, and you know, all these surprise bills are not going to happen anymore. But having said that, the municipalities that were having trouble calculating out how on earth they were going to pay for this said, well, at least the mortgage now that we're going to have to pay is pretty much equivalent to the current levy in most cases. And in our case, it was pretty much equal. So based upon what we know now. So the operational levy is going to change to a mortgage, and hopefully the operational levy will go away in its entirety. But the mortgage isn't like we're not going to save anything over the next 25 years, if that answers your question at all.
Okay.
Yes, Councillor Corbett.
So just back to the seniors complex, appreciate the work done by the CAO to get in touch with the ministry. The fact that this does not have an initial impact on our ARL is huge in my decision making of this project. I think it allows the municipality to move forward with the confidence that looking at the demographics of our everybody's population, that this will be a well used and well utilized complex and seniors housing. So I am confident that they will be in good standing. I am happy that I'm happy to support the municipality backing this loan to get this project moving forward. And I'm even more happy to hear that there's a potential after 15 years that this will come off of the municipality's books as a guarantee. So I think it's a great project. I think it's time that we move this forward, and I'm happy to support it later tonight.
Yes, CAO Walker.
One thing that I do need to mention, I have confirmed that there is a vacant seat on that board that is available for a member of council to participate. So just making you all aware that there is a seat available for one member of council.
Or whoever we choose to appoint.
Correct.
If it's even a member outside of council. Okay. The concern I have, and it remains though, CEO Walker, is that at your treasurer's discretion, you say you can include it or not include it in the debt repayment limit, which is fine. But that's on the basis that things are fine. And, you know, it's not costing the municipality any money because things are fine. The reason a bank wants a guarantee is because we all know things sometimes aren't fine. And then for them to lend money, they want backing. So if things aren't fine and the municipality has to incur whatever related to the situation, does your treasurer's discretion then, you know, the debt repayment limit is going to come home to roost then at that point in time. Is that how I understand it?
If we're at that mechanism where the operation or where the loan is in default, and immediate payment is called upon, then it is at that juncture that we would, there going forward, include it in our AL statement from that year forward, and take over operation and ownership of the seniors housing and incorporate it within our assets and incorporate it within our operation, along with the revenues from the rental units.
Okay, I just, yes, Councillor Legacy.
All right. So I've heard everyone, and I've also read what they've supplied, and also I remember what Dean advised us and how it could affect us in the worst case scenario. When they first began, and I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I'm going to say it again, it was not to cost the township 1 cent, not 1 cent. And right now we're taking a gamble to see, we're going to be guarantors. And we're taking a gamble in my mind, whether they're going to make it or not. That's not good enough for me, because if something happens to this township, we're already committed to Castle Home. And if something happens that we can't foresee, that the township needs equipment badly or anything, and this stops that from that percent, that liability that we will be taking on, that's a heavy burden to me. And for that reason, I will be calling a recorded vote, please.
Okay. Yes, CAO Walker.
Just on that note, thank you very much for Councillor Legacy for your comments on that. I will remind Council that in the presentation brought forward by our auditor, DeCare, we do have reserves set for those kind of purposes, purchases of equipment and various other things. So we would exhaust our reserves before we would ever have to look at incurring any debt on those types of purchasing. Just a reminder.
Okay. The only, I guess, concern I have or position I'm going to state is that it's good that it's not going to show against the debt repayment limit and only under the worst possible case scenario. But I hearken back to the fact that the bank wants guarantors because of worst case scenarios. They happen every day. So it's like saying we have an empty fire extinguisher, but don't worry, we're never going to have a fire. So that's what concerns me with this. That's all. Yes, Councillor Foisey.
Moving forward with the seniors housing project. We've all heard the saying, profit over people. However, the Bonfield Seniors Housing Project is putting people over profit. It's a very popular project, a nonprofit project with many potential economic spin-offs, such as construction and maintenance, hair salons, foot care, grocery stores, club memberships, and so on. Even though the goal is to provide an essential service to the people of the community, to provide the basic life need of shelter, as identified as a priority by all levels of governments in this province and this country. It is an homage to those seniors who have greatly contributed to our community, to our society. It is a least that we can do as a council to recognize their contributions. We should make sure that this essential and gratifying project does materialize. This will put Bonfield on the map as a community that shows its appreciation towards our elderly people. We will be joining the neighboring townships, cities, and towns of Matawa, East Ferris, North Bay, Sundridge, Powassan, West Nipissing, and others in recognizing the contributions, the importance of our elders who were and still are part of the economic drivers of this municipality and other municipalities. This is community development at its prime. We are looking after the recreational needs of children and families with the waterfront development. Let's not forget to look after the needs of our elders, the parents and grandparents of this community. The elders do have money, even extra money, disposable cash, to spend in our township. They also are, in majority, the volunteers for different charity organizations and clubs, and sit in majority on the township's committees and boards. Let's recognize and respect our elders, not only by saying that we support the Bonfield Seniors Housing Project, but by putting our words into action, by voting in favor of the senior housing project and demonstrating that the township promotes their sense of belonging to their community. As guarantor to this project, it demonstrates that we are willing to invest into people, the people that we represent. Small community, big hearts for our elders.
Pre-prepared statement. Okay, thank you. Well, on that, we're all elected to represent the fiduciary responsibility of our shareholders, and that's all the taxpayers of the Township of Bonfield. So let's also keep that in mind when we make, $7 million mortgage guarantees. So notwithstanding anything that you said there, it's all has valid argument. This all boils down to financial capability. It has nothing to do with any one person. And we are a corporation, and in business, we have to protect our shareholders in that basis. So that's what this decision comes down to. Okay, is there any other questions or comments related to the thing before I take a mover and a seconder related to the bylaw? Okay, is there, we've already heard that there's going to be a recorded vote related to this. Is there a mover and a seconder to introduce the bylaw? Yes, moved by Councillor Foisey and seconded by Councillor Corbett. I'll read the motion, and then, of course, the recording clerk will call the vote. Whereas council deems it necessary and expedient to pass 3 readings of the following bylaw at this session, be it hereby resolved that a bylaw to authorize the execution of a financing agreement between the Corporation of the Township of Bonfield and Community Nonprofit Seniors Housing Bonfield for the purposes of a financing guarantee agreement be read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered 2022-22, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Last call for questions. Okay, recording clerk Gagne.
I will now go in alphabetical order. Please respond yea or nay. Councillor Corbett,
Yay.
Councillor Foisey,
Yay.
Councillor Legacy,
No.
Councillor Vaillancourt.
Yay.
Mayor McLaren.
No.
Resolution carried, 3 yeas, 2 nays.
Okay, thank you. Disbursements. I'd take a mover and a seconder for the disbursements, and then we'll entertain any questions. Moved by Councillor Legacy, seconded by Councillor Vaillancourt. Before I read the motion, is there any questions related to the disbursements in our package? Yes, Councillor Legacy.
On page 1 of 4, under general government, the rink curtain, I see an amount of 5,271. Is that what was in the budget?
I'm sorry, I missed that, Councillor Legacy.
Was the amount for the rink curtain, is that amount what was in the budget for? That we
Yes, it's
approved?
funded, Councillor Legacy, it's funded through the funding we received, and it has been noted.
All right, so it
So
stays
it
the same
doesn't in and
place?
out.
All right, good. And I noticed the ride programs have come back for the policing. And I see they started in January, and we're just getting the bills now. From last November, December, January, and February. And I guess we're seeing the bills now for that. I found that interesting. And I have a question for Public Works. The Bay 3 door needed to be repaired. That door, is it from the winter again?
It's the eyeballs were not looking at each other, so the door wouldn't close properly. So they had to do an adjustment with the eyes, and the laser wasn't working properly.
All right, and the backhoe tire repair, I guess we're back into the nails again, so we're going to be getting some tire repairs.
I hope not many.
All right, and then I did have a question this week regarding our beaver control. So I see that our trapper had nine beavers that he took care of. So
Yes,
Did
7
that
in
help?
line 3. And a few on Webb's Road. With his cooperation and with material that we already own, we built a few beaver baffles. So that's something new we're trying down on Webb's Road. So it's like a culvert that goes under the dam, and it's caged in so that they can't hear water running, but it still allows the water to flow through the dam. So we'll see how that little trickery works out for us down there.
North Bay Matawa Conservation did a demonstration a couple of years ago at, I believe it was for the Public Works crew throughout all the municipalities. And that was one of the things in that workshop that they showed us. And they have a couple that they've set up, and they're quite interesting. One is at Lavaz Portage. You can see it actually there over a bridge. So I hope it should work. I wish you guys luck, and thank you. That's all my questions on the disbursements.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Vinecourt.
Just one, and maybe a typo that the ride program has already charged us for one in December 2022.
Those were held at different times during the day.
Yeah, but it shows like 1/21, 2022. Or is it just a typo? Right, December 10th, 2022, 2 officers, $1,300.
Oh, sorry. Yes, it must have been, was a typo that I didn't catch. Sorry about that.
No problem.
I just remind everybody too that the charges here that we see related to the ride grants, we get a grant from Ministry of Correctional Services for that service. So we've actually been holding the money. Now we're just paying it out again to have had those ride checks. Any other questions related to the disbursements? Okay, I'll read the motion then. Moved by Councillor Legassi, seconded by Councillor Vinecourt, that the following disbursements be approved as prepared. All the departments under APO 6029 for a subtotal of $141,557.60, and payroll batches 1213 through to 1215 amounting to $26,172.77, resulting in a total disbursement of $167,730.37. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried. Correspondence and information. First one is the Public Works Manager attendance at the Aorz trade show, and that's happening this year in Barrie at the Sadlin Arena. And we have a motion related to that. I take a mover and a seconder for it. Moved by Councillor Vinecourt, seconded by Councillor Corbett. That the Public Works Manager be approved to attend the 2022 Aorz trade show, June 2nd, 2022, and that expenses be paid accordingly. Any question? All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Bonfield Agricultural Society, good to see they're planning to have a fair again this year. And they're seeking some level of financial support from us in return for some promotion. There's a pre-prepared motion related to that, but there's no amount in the sponsorship amount line. Historically, what have we donated? $100? Something to that effect?
Yeah, $100.
Councillor Legacy, question?
I believe it was $100, and for special occasions, we've given, I think, as much as, if I'm not mistaken, 500, but I can't really remember very well. But I was wondering if we could donate and towards the, you have different places for the kids events. And because we haven't had a fall fair for a couple of years and it'll be hard to get back, I was going to suggest 200.
Okay, the pre-prepared motion does indicate at the very end of it towards the youth activities program, so that's kind of where it was headed. And what I'm hearing is it's been tabled $200, but before we do that, I'll take a mover and a seconder for the motion. Moved by Councillor Vinecore and seconded by Councillor Foisey. And then before I read the motion, I guess we'll settle on a figure. Is 200 acceptable, or what are we thinking? Okay, I see a second person. Yep, everybody seems in order for 200. So motion moved by Councillor Vinecore, seconded by Councillor Foisey. Whereas the Bonfield Agricultural Society has requested Council's consideration for a sponsorship for their annual fall fair to be held August 20th and 21st, 2022. We hereby resolve that Council approves a $200 sponsorship to be used towards their youth activities program. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Next one is the Building Department Annual Financial Report. That's a statutory requirement that we need to calculate and document permit fees and other activities of the building department, along with corresponding expenses of running a building department. And that has been described for us in that report. I take a mover and a seconder to acknowledge receipt of the report. Moved by Councillor Vinecore, seconded by Councillor Corbett, that the building department's 2020-2021 financial report submitted by the manager of planning and development be accepted as prepared. Any questions on this? All in favor? Carried. Or Dennis DeShane, his resignation from the Planning Advisory Committee. I take a mover, a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Corbett, seconded by Councillor Legacy. The council accepts the resignation submitted by Dennis DeShane as a member of the Planning Advisory Committee. All in favor? Carried. Item 5, the 2022 AMO conference. Deputy Clerk Gagne circulated a heads-up email to us about a week ago, indicating, as the agenda also reflects, that the certain portions of the banquet and so forth are full now at the AMO conference, but the general conference itself is still able to be registered, but the early bird deadline is this Friday, so we need to make a decision tonight on who's attending. Do you have indications from anybody or everybody yet, Deputy Clerk Gagne?
No, I do not at this time.
Okay, well, I'd like to go, so but we'll see if all of council wants to go. That would be the short way to write the motion, but
yeah, when's it? Can I? Well,
August
Pardon?
14th to the
Yeah, I know when it
17th.
is, but when did deadline do we have to know by Friday? Or do you have-
Yes.
Okay. Okay,
I think what,
I'll just,
for ease of motion here, we could just write all of council for tonight, and if you haven't reported in to Andre by Friday, then you're out, I guess. But if we cover everybody with all of council, then if you make decision tomorrow that you want to attend, you could at least do so. CAO Johnston, yes, or Walker, your white hand against a white wall is hard to see.
Through your worship, I also would like to attend the conference.
Okay. Right, so if I wrote the motion, all of council and CAO Walker, will that suffice for tonight?
Yes, it will.
Okay. So I take a mover and a seconder for that then. Moved by Councillor Legacy, seconded by Councillor Corbett. That the following members be approved to attend the AMO conference, August 14th to 17th, 2022. All of council and CAO Walker, and that expenses be paid accordingly. Any question? All in favor? Carried. So accept my indication now, because I'll forget immediately to advise you. And then if you get any other volunteers after that, please have them registered by Friday.
Okay.
Okay, Waterfront Project dock tender. There was quite a comprehensive report in our package. Manager Carr didn't elaborate too much on the report or at all in the Public Works section of our meeting. Is there anything you'd like to say towards it now at all, or did the report speak for itself?
I think the report speaks for itself. I would just like to point out that this is part of the Waterfront Project. So the RFQ that's being accepted by council tonight is funded by the grant that was given to us for the specificities of the Waterfront plan. This project is kind of a surprise to us, as it was quite under the estimated budget that we first thought we would need for the funding. So it's giving us a little more room to do other projects within our waterfront plan. I think the rest of it explains itself, as well as it has the documents and the drawings as well in your package.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Legacy.
I was just wondering, in that waterfront plan, this is a project I've been working on since 2010, Blanchard's Landing. And recently it came up before Doug left. Chris Main was helping us to, we've worked with every ministry to figure out, we've spent money trying to figure out who owns the property and why, you know, to get that dock. And is there any way that we can get part of the funding to go for Blanchard's Landing? It would be nice if that could be done this year, because it's been waiting for years. It's been on my plate since 2010, and it would be nice to get something for these people that are using those docks.
I agree with you, Councillor Legacy, that the township would love to help with Blanchard's Landing. However, us being directly involved with it, most of the funding, we have to identify that the asset belongs to the municipality that we're using the money for. And unfortunately, that dock isn't owned by the municipality. There has been conversation with Mr. Mains that perhaps his association could get some quotes together, and then they could present an application to get help through Calvin Township, as well as the Township of Bonfield. I don't know if that would be something that the council would entertain. However, with us not owning the dock, it's hard for us to get funding for it, as usually when we do a funding application, CAO Walker has to sign that we actually own the asset. So funding that project wouldn't happen through the municipality. However, perhaps there are other funding opportunities there.
when I left, when it was left, Doug and CAO Johnston was on it, and they were looking for funding, and everything was going well, and I don't know what happened. They left, but they must have notes. There's a string of emails with direction on how to proceed, and it was going well. All we needed was the funding. So if someone could look through those, ask them, Doug or CAO Johnston, where they left off with that, you'll find that it was really close to being done this year.
Okay, we'll follow up on that, Counselor.
Thank
I
you.
also
Isn't the line
participated in
right
a,
on that property? Like, is it in Calvin at the dock? I went down there, I mean, it does need, it's not a good situation. They can't even park their boat there and get off without something, but I think we got to see if that's it's not even on our township. According, there's a pie shape there that comes right down, I was told, and it was on Calvin's or.
there was a survey done about 6 or 7 years ago related to that, and the further complication that I'll explain in a minute. But before I forget, the existing dock that we have at Lake Nosbonsing at the foot of Church Street, what's going to become of that under this new replacement dock that's coming there?
It remains the same as it is. This boat is specifically so when it's busy down there, or dock, sorry, is there for so when people launch their boat, they're able to get off to the side, because the dock that we currently have is so high that you're unable to get out of a boat and to get onto the dock.
Okay.
This dock also accommodates, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just thought if it was coming out and going to dry dock, no pun intended, that it perhaps could be relocated down there, but it's going to stay in use is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay. In answer to the confusion about Calvin Township and us related to that thing, I participated in a online meeting about February of this year with the Cottagers Association and affected businesses, MPP Fidelity, and a variety of stakeholders, Chief Bastien of the Algonquins and others. And the initiative at that point in time was one related to dredging of the water course in and around there, because we as a municipality get a lot of blame for a lot of silt that comes in from the mouth of Sparks Creek, Sharps Creek, I guess they call it, and incorrectly. And we get blamed for the silt settling there in that vicinity, and then the deplorable condition now of the wharf itself. The conversation led to MPP Fidelity basically pleading with some entity to apply for funding, but somebody had to take charge and do the application. He couldn't just hand out funding without somebody applying for it. And to date, nobody has taken up the charge of applying for it. And the reason being, and the complication there, whether it's Calvin or Bonfield Township or whoever, is that that's part of the Matawa River Provincial Park, that shoreline. And the true owners and stewards of that particular piece of real estate is the park superintendent of Samuel de Champlain Provincial Park. They do the maintenance there. So it's difficult for any municipality to directly apply for the funding when, as Public Works Manager described, we're not the true owner of the actual site that the wharf is on. It's Matawa River Provincial Park territory. So long way to say it's complicated, but yes, something needs to be done there. And in support of Councillor Legacy's comments, yes, when I saw this in our package, I always remind, and I remind Council again tonight, when we applied for waterfront master plan money, when the consultant was doing his work, my advice to the consultant was, we're full of waterfront. It isn't just one particular site, so let's keep that in mind. But at the end of the day, the package primarily relates to Cabascong Park and other associated waterfront in that vicinity. But this municipality is full of waterfront, and we need to keep that in mind when we use the term. Having said that, this is a good news story. As we heard, the cost of the kayak dock has come in less than anticipated, so there will be some wiggle room there should other things come in a bit higher than expected. It was expected. So I would take a mover and a seconder to adopt the quote. Yes. Is that a question or a movement? Okay, moved by Councillor Lagasse, seconded by Councillor Vinecourt. Whereas a request for quotation was executed for the construction of an additional dock for the purpose of launching boats, as well as a slip for canoes and kayaks. And whereas the request for quotation was sent out to 3 companies by invitation, as well as posted on the township website. And whereas the request for quotation was opened in a public meeting on May 4th, 2022, and whereas 1 quote was received and reviewed for errors and omissions from Blue Sky Docks for a total of $67,223.70, including HST. Therefore, the Public Works Manager recommends to Council to accept the quote from Blue Sky Docks and that the granted funding from FedNor and NOHFC be applied to the cost of this project as part of the Waterfront Development Plan. Any further questions? All in favor? Carried. Item 7, roads need study. The CAO and I had a conversation about this last week, and I had advised him that the municipality was the benefactor of a very comprehensive and free road need study about 25 years ago from an entity that was starting out, and the person had left the Ontario Good Roads Association and was going out into business of their own, and was looking for a municipality to study. And in fact, they come up here and spent a week and cataloged all of our assets and our concerns and liabilities at the time. Gave us a document that we worked from probably for a decade to 15 years after. But these things, as we know, need regular updating and maintenance and revision, and there's been so much change in this municipality related to its roadway infrastructure during that time. So on that basis, it's high time again that we had a roads needs study done. Is there anything, Manager Carr or CAO Walker, that you want to add to that before Council considers this motion? Go ahead.
Our last road needs study was done in 2016. So we've done a lot of projects with our roads, so those items would change. Some have degraded worse than others. The pricing that would be involved with our road needs study from 2016 would no longer be accurate. And with the asset management plan having to be done by July 1st, this gives us accurate information to be able to put into our asset management plan for future decision-making with our council.
Just out of curiosity, who did the roads needs study in 2016?
DM Wills, the company that we use for bridge and culvert studies.
Okay. I take a
Through your
mover and
worship,
a
I'll just make
seconder.
oh, no, that's
Yes.
fine. Go ahead. If you don't need a comment.
No, go ahead.
Through your worship, at my previous municipality where I was the CIO, we did contract Golder to do a roads needs study for us there. They did excellent quality work, very impressed with their outputs and recommendations, and very useful living document that helps shape the needs of the community going into the future for long range capital planning. And that's all I'll add as a comment.
Okay, thank you. So is there a mover and a seconder for this motion? Moved by Councillor Corbett, seconded by Councillor Vinecourt. Whereas the Public Works Manager and CAO recommends to Council that Golder Associates Limited prepare a roads needs study for the Township of Bonfield in the amount of $14,845 plus HST. Be it hereby resolved that Council approves of this recommendation. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Item 8, similar and in line with the roads need study, is a application to Federation of Canadian Municipalities for grant assistance for roads need study, asset management plan work, and some capital planning software. I take a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Foisey, seconded by Councillor Vine, or Lagasse, I should say. I'll read the motion, then if there's any questions. That council directs staff to make an application for $50,000 of funding from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Asset Management Planning Program, and that council commits to conducting the following activities in the proposed project submitted to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Municipal Asset Management Program to advance our asset management program, a roads needs study, the development of asset management plan policy and strategy, capital planning software, and training on asset management. And that the Township of Bonnfield commits $12,500 from the budget towards the cost of this initiative. Any questions on this one? All in favor? Carried. Town of Arnprior, motion of support regarding humanitarian efforts in Ukraine. Is there any, there's no pre-prepared motion on that one. Are we taking that as information for tonight? Seemingly so. Okay, we move now then to the confirmatory bylaw. I take a mover and a seconder for it. Oh, we have an unfinished business, but it's not on our agenda for discussion tonight. The report has not been received yet related to 12.1, the request to purchase leased property. So on the basis of the confirmatory bylaw, a mover and a seconder for it. Moved by Councillor Vinecore, seconded by Councillor Corbett. Whereas council deems it expedient to pass 3 readings of the following bylaw at this session. We hereby resolve that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council from April 26th, 2022 to May 10th, 2022. We read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered 2022-23, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. All in favor? Carried. It would seem that that's all we have for business for this evening. Thank everybody for attending, and our guests in the audience and our viewers at home. I take a mover and a seconder to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Lagasse, seconded by Councillor Vinecore. That this meeting be adjourned at 8:11 p.m. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Night.
Just your swear.
You'd be way more full than that.